Hi guys, I'm just going to read out it's a rather lengthy spiel that I'm putting under the description of the latest Ministry of Justice North Shore District Court 19th of May Security and Threatened Contempt video. Two matters alleged against my person by New Zealand Police, a man namely Neil Winterbottom, a constable and a traffic officer for over 26 years. The charges being failing to provide a driver's licence when required by an enforcement officer, never met one of them, and exceeding a posted speed limit of 50 kilometres an hour. Note, had he ordered me to provide it, I would have. In fact, I had it with me. But as the video shows on the 21st of November 2014, he was not giving me any orders.
I am happy to produce anything you order me to do.
I'm not ordering you to do anything. I'm not ordering you to do anything. I'm not ordering you to do anything.
I think the video actually, he says.
I'm not ordering you to do anything.
Okay. Unlike the September interaction, which is the 2nd of September 2014, where Neil actually gave me 3 orders.
Is that an order or a request?
It's an order.
Is that an order or a request?
It's an order.
It's an order?
Yeah.
Oh, happily, sir. So you'd like my last name, is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
And that's an order?
Yes.
My last name, my person's last name
How
is...
do you spell that?
that would be K.
Thank you very much.
Again, is that another order?
Yes.
For me to supply the home address?
Yes.
Well, we'll go for...
Right, just get you to wait there one moment, please.
Is that an order, sir?
Yes, it is.
Awesome.
And he was invoiced accordingly.
Your name isn't Constable Neil Winterbottom?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Got my name wrong to start with.
Really? Your name isn't Constable Neil Winterbottom?
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Who are you?
Constable Neil Winterbottom.
Who are you?
Constable Neil Winterbottom.
Is it Waterbottom then?
No, it's Winterbottom.
Right, well you just said no it's not, and I said Neil Winterbottom, and you just said no it's not.
Waterbottom as
Yeah.
you called me the first time.
Yeah, well that registered post got sent back, and I sent you it back again, which got collected and signed for by Celia Snowman.
No, it's not Celia Snow.
Yes, Celia Snowman is the lady that signed for the registered post that was sent to
I
you.
work with the lady and that's not her name.
You gave me 3 orders last time and your bill's still outstanding. You owe me $225, mate, for your last orders.
I haven't received,
In fact,
I haven't received,
He was not giving me any orders. Unlike the September interaction, perhaps he did not want another invoice. Who'd know? I was held against my will. I was forced through threats and coercion to remove, delete my private property, namely the video recordings of the 19th of May inside the courtroom that day, and had no justice whatsoever from the Ministry of Justice. I was forced again under threat to surrender my cell phone and camera for over 3 hours by Mr. Holworth. Bear in mind my wife's at home in a wheelchair. It's always good to be able to be reachable while I'm out and about. At the end of the half day worth of arguing that I made over a speeding ticket, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon when they decided to convene for lunch, after the JPs had left, myself, the registrar, Reese, and there was a couple of security guards guarding the doorway, holding their hand across the door so I could not leave. And upon returning property to me, was made to remove footage. This was at approximately 2 p.m. On the 21st of November 2014, the allegations charged totaled $225, which was the $170 for the speeding side of things and the $55 charge for failing to produce a driver's license. On the 19th of May 2015, the final costs were $215. I ended up having $70 removed off of the $170 ticket, which brought it down to $100 off of the speeding, and the additional costs of $60 were added for the court costs, 2 $30 charges per offence, whatever that is. I guess the corrupt JPs were entertained. Questions such as, where do you derive your authority over I am man, were directed at Mr. Holworth, and they were ignored. I spoke multiple languages via my testimony. For example, while pointing at the man Neil, I stated, that man, Constable Neil, Officer Winterbottom. So there you go, there's 3 titles, I'm calling him a man. Now bear in mind, that court proceedings would not, they always had, whenever I said that man, they said, do you mean Mr. Officer? They would not accept me referring to any other man or woman in that courtroom as a man or a woman. They were all playing a part. As whenever I just said that man, they clarified by asking, do you mean Officer Winterbottom? To which I would reply, I mean that man, while pointing at him. Hayworth stated, Mr. Keane, you will refer to Officer Winterbottom as such. I replied, I wish and require this court to address myself as Mark. I think I added, as that's the name my mother gave me. And Hallworth replied, this court will address yourself as Mr. Keane, to which I objected. Whenever Mr. Keane was referred to, I simply pointed at me, and he said yes. Prosecution, or police prosecution, which was Mr. James Gallagher, who I'd never met, objected numerous times, even suggested I had a session with the medical officer, to which I stated, you first, or him first. And I asked it under what authority. Do you make that determination, James? Didn't get an answer, probably because I called him James instead of Mr. Gallagher. James stated multiple times he is making a mockery of, I'll try and do it, and no offence to any Scottish, try and do it in his Scottish accent. Oh, he's making a mockery of the court, Your Honour. That's what he sounded like, alright. Fuck, mate, he almost had me in stitches laughing. The court was already a mockery before I even was there. I just showed up and showed it for what it was. But when James spoke, I objected and clarified I did not even recognise who that pointing at James man was. Okay, so I just say I don't recognise that man. Now, legalese, recognise means contract. I had so much fun, as I do not fear these cowards one bit, and that's all they are, the cowards. They're hiding under their colour of authority, walking around wearing costumes, thinking they're Captain America. Because that's all they are. They are just like you and me, and unless you have caused harm, loss or injury to another fellow man, you've done nothing wrong. All of these offences and criminal procedures, I mean, they're calling a speeding ticket a criminal offence. Think about that for a second. Where is the injury, the harm or the damage? There isn't any. Okay? Now I agree, if I was operating in a commercial capacity, say I was employed at the time, say many years ago, if I was being a satellite installer, driving from one job to another, yes, I needed a driver's license because I was acting in a commercial basis. I was being paid for my time out there on the highway. Alright? That's why you need a license, because I'm acting commercially through my person doing so. But when I'm just being a man, going from point A to point B, exercising my right to travel, and because I say I have that right, I do, well, who are they to say otherwise? Okay? It's all the concepts that people have believed in. I believe I'm a man. I believe I live on earth. And I believe that my person may be a representative within a certain society. But I'm not that person. And as a man, man is bound by no legislation. Okay? A man cannot be bound by writing. Alright? It's that simple. Persons are, not man. Learn your capacities, people. Anyway, moving on. The first transcript regarding the document I was forced to sign has now been in the hands of Mr. Hallworth. Now, I think it was the, try and get my dates right, it might have been the 7th or the 9th of June that I spoke to Carl Lewins, or emailed him. Funnily enough, I got a response straight away via the email, and I was told then that on the 9th of June that the transcript regarding the first matter, where I was threatened to sign this document that they had written, this is nothing to do with the actual hearing, to do with the offences, because that transcript took 3 hours and they're probably still typing it up. Apparently it's quite lengthy. Thanks very much. The first transcript has now been in the hands of Mr. Hayworth, what I was told by Carl, that the Justice of the Peace had to review it first. Now this was something I asked of the court. So why the fuck does the JP have to review something before I get it? Could it be to redact something? Could it be to cover his ass? One would think so. So, as it's now been in the hands of Mr. Hayworth for 3 weeks, I am still awaiting the transcripts for both the first matter, where I was threatened with arrest if I did not sign the documents authored by the JPs, which I did not understand, and upon questioning Mr. Hayworth was refused any clarification. So on that document that I've shown on the clip, I asked simple words, like this capitalised I you've got here written, what does that mean? Is that meant in the form of capitis diminutio minima, media or maxima? And when I was asking questions like that, we had Neil and James, the 2 cops, going, see what we mean, Your Honour? You know, complaining to him like Daddy that they don't get what I'm saying. Well, it's not my fault they're not educated, that they're not learned men, that don't comprehend the English language. Damn pity. Yeah, so I wasn't given any clarification whatsoever. I asked multiple questions. In fact, it took almost 6 minutes from the time that they gave me that pre-written thing. I think they entitled it Acknowledgement by my Capitis Diminutio Maxima, capitalised Mark Donald Eric Keane, which isn't me, it's just a name. They just amazed me with their ignorance. Although I'm pretty sure the Justice of the Peace knew what I was doing. Why else, after 3 hours, wasting almost an entire half day of their money-making, revenue-collecting courthouse's scheme, would they give me $70 off of a speeding ticket? You know, honestly, to quote Gladiator, are we not entertained? Perhaps I entertained them. Perhaps they thought, let's knock $70 off because this guy knows who he is. Who knows? It's only a presumption, but then that's all the courts are. Assumption, presumption, and opinion. Because it's absent of fact. Never assume anything, by the way. Always presume. A presume is something you do beforehand and can be corrected. A presumption. Whereas if you assume something, you are assuming responsibility for that assumption. Always presume. Never assume. Now on that document it tells me that I uploaded a video. I uploaded actually 3 videos that day in regards to the 17th of March's preliminary hearing. They were labelled Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. Part 3 is the only one that showed the inside of the courtroom and the JPs. So I presume he's meaning that one. So I did. I removed it. Just under the time limit. I was given to 5 PM on the 21st? And I removed it at 11 AM on the 21st. And let's remember, this judge is, or JP, or man, Mr. Hayworth, he'd made the stupid mistake of trying to shut a gate after the horse had left. I mean, that video had been up online for 6 weeks. Over 120 plus views that I was aware of. So the theory that someone else may have already downloaded it and re-uploaded it, cool. Anybody wants a copy? Just shout out. I did remove the unnamed video that was referred to, Ministry of Justice, 17th of March, first appearance Part 3, on the 21st of May at 11 AM. The order was complied with. As a man equal to any other, I shall do as I wish. Mr. Hayworth overstepped his authority, and I am still considering invoicing him for his orders. Because it was my time you were wasting in that courtroom. I was told to appear at 9:30. Courtroom didn't even open until 10 past 10. So, you know, who's paying me for my time? You? I fucking just had so much fun. Because once one loses this fear of this non-existent authority, boy, you start to become a man. You start to become a woman. You start to become a self-governing individual. Alright? No one else tells me when to get up in the morning. I get myself up. And for you guys to say, well, I'll go out there, but I won't be allowed. Don't go thinking that you're not allowed to do anything. Because you're equal to any other. No other man or woman has the right to tell you what you can and can't do. You can do it. Simple. The belief that you need permission for something from a higher authority in the first place is an incorrect one. Unless you think you're a person in a society. In which case, there's a good little you. Bear in mind, I followed their rules, their procedures, etc. to no avail. As they do not follow them anyway. So, what that basically means is those rules are there to keep the yous in line. I followed their rules step by step. I tried to do everything according to their rules, and it was ignored. It was railroaded because they changed the rules to suit themselves. For an example, in fact, during the hearing, Mr. Cave and Mr. Hallworth made the decision that the words, because I stated, I even held up the charge sheet and I pointed to it while I was reading out to Mr. Hallworth across the counter, because I was at the defence table by that point. I said, failed to produce, and I used my finger to write along the allegation, failed to produce a driver's licence when required by an enforcement officer. And then I looked at him and I said, no enforcement officer was present. That man identified himself as a constable.
Who are you?
Constable Neil Winterbottom.
Okay, so you're a constable, is that correct?
Yes, I am. Constable Neil Winterbottom.
Okay, so you're a constable, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
I'm not confused. You know, it's no difficult. I can read what it says. But again, they changed the rules to suit themselves. So, Mr. Hallworth and Mr. Cave, in their divine fucking capacities, decided to change the English language and the legalese to saying that the words request, ask, and all meant the same thing. Now, by them making that decision, they've fucked themselves up in such a way. Because from now on, when I'm just asked for something, well, I'm just going to consider that an order, an invoice. If that's the way they want to play, batter up. They just make up the rules to suit themselves. And I actually voiced to them, I said to Mr. Hayward, so you're just going to make up the rules to suit yourself then? Or are we? You know, I just got ignored. Mr. Hallworth and Mr. Cave, they're pre-citing, alright, so they had already cited before they even got there, acted beyond their scope of authority. They committed fraud by crafting documents in this video. In other words, they wrote that document. They used my name to do so. I had no understanding whatsoever of it, and that is why I signed without duress and under protest and duress, without prejudice. Without prejudice means, if you sign any document without prejudice, it means you don't fully understand it. You cannot be prejudged without prejudging. Okay? So, you can write whatever you like, and then just without prejudice means you didn't really mean it, don't understand a bean of it, and I can't be held liable for it. And as they were failing to clarify, and they authored it, according to Carl Lewins, the two justices of the peace authored that document, not me. So perhaps it should have been named Acknowledgement by Mr. Hallworth and Mr. Cave. Mr. Hallworth and Mr. Cave, the presiding justices, acted beyond their scope of authority, committed fraud by crafting a document in this video, and failed to provide identification to who they are. I asked him multiple times, on the stand, behind the defence table, who are you? I require you to identify yourself, for and on the record. No. That was the answer I got. No. Will you identify yourself to me now? No. Alright? Now, if that's not being an arsehole, what is? I have the right, and my person has its right, to know the name of the referee in any presiding case.
A couple of days ago at North Shore District Court, I was there for a defended hearing in regards to a couple of matters. I was given a piece of paper by the court registrar during court entitled Acknowledgement by Mark Donald Eric Keane, my person's name, and it's got about 6 points of interest and then dated on the 19th of May. I was told to sign it or be held in contempt and forced to sign it. I was also forced to relinquish my property under threat of arrest. There's no signature or name. The Justice of the Peace that was giving all of these supposed orders would not identify himself. I asked him multiple times on the record, he wouldn't tell me who he was. I want to get some sort of redress. I've been trespassed upon, my rights have been stood all over, and I feel like I've signed it without prejudice and under duress and protest at the time, otherwise, I was going to get arrested. And this was over a traffic offence.
What sort of traffic offence are you looking at?
Well, at the time it was a failure to produce driver's licence and a 75 kilometre and a 50k area, which I was contesting. There were two justices of the peace presiding. Yes.
Oh, okay.
And they wouldn't identify themselves. I asked them on the record. I told them it was my wish for them to identify themselves, and they said no.
I think you should write to the court and get that. You have a right to know the referee's details. I think you should write to the court and get that. You have a right to know the referee's details.
So, there's your there's your fraud right there. Alright? Also, I found out that I should have been given 7 days to produce that driver's license and avoid the $55 charge. No, it's because Neil was being a... That's why. Yeah, Neil, you're an asshole. Come see me any time and I'll clarify it for you. You wear your costume or not, I don't give a fuck. Over 3 hours period, Neil committed perjury on the stand, which I pointed out via cross-examination. He stated that when he first saw me, he was following me. Well, that's wrong because he was parked. There's perjury. He stated that I was travelling westward. Okay, so at what point was I driving? Because I already stated I was travelling from one point to another. You know, I'm using their words and tripping them up on it, and it just gets swept under. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good I think I am at knowing the different languages and the different terminologies and phrases and terms of art. It doesn't matter. They change it to suit themselves. It doesn't matter what you do in any court system to try and win. It's a rigged game. You won't. Or if you do, it's because they felt like it. It's not because you won through the rules. It's because they felt like letting the sheep get away through the fence occasionally. You know? That's the only reason I can think of as to why Horworth reduced the speeding ticket. And bear in mind, when you're entering evidence, it doesn't matter what paperwork, that the New Zealand police sent me beforehand. I mean, they sent me my entire criminal history, my traffic history. They sent me everything, as I suppose, to scare me. You know, again, I'll make a vid and I'll post every bit of evidence that they supplied me. Alright? And I'll do that because the matter is closed. The matter is dealt with. It's not an open case. So I will. I'll show everybody what they have supplied. And it doesn't matter what they supplied because the evidence is entered when he's on the stand. So the paperwork that they sent me via the post for the months or so beforehand meant nothing. Because as soon as those courtroom doors are closed, that's when the case is being made. That's when the court is being heard, and that's when you enter your evidence as exhibits. So what Neil did when he was up there is he re-entered, or he handed to the registrar Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C of the various paperwork so it could be re-entered as evidence. Because everything he'd showed me beforehand doesn't matter. He could write me a letter saying I'm going to fucking knock your head off. Doesn't matter unless he exhibits that as evidence. Little things you learn. I will know next time, should they ever step on me again. You know, I learned mounds and mounds of information just by having fun. And to put a long 3-hour argument clarification short, there is no justice in these administrative hearings. For proof of authority, New Zealand Police supplied a statement from New Zealand Transport Authority showing my person has a current full driver's licence. Well, it does. So yep, a contract exists between my person and the New Zealand Transport Authority. Even though I was not operating a vehicle in the commercial capacity, in Neil's summary of facts he states I was travelling west past him. Yet, in court he stated I was driving. He failed to specify under cross-examination which capacity he was acting as that day. Now Neil, first of all, when he identified himself, my full name is Neil Winterbottom. I have been a constable and a traffic officer for over 26 years. Okay, cool. So you've been two things. Which one were you? Couldn't answer that. And prosecution stepped up and caused a stink, and that question was ignored. Because I know full well my videotape, and the videotape, the archaic CRT tube on a steel frame inside that courtroom, and the DVD player that must have been at least 10 years old, that was unable to recognise an MP4 formatted DVD, was unable to play my videos. Alright? So, all of the footage that I had couldn't even be played. Now you guys, if you've been following this, know that I gave the North Shore District Court, Carl Lewins and everyone else there ample opportunity to specify to me what format they would like that video in. How I bent over backwards to try and make sure that that footage could be done. And what happens? Can't be played. And it's important to know that even after the 3 hours worth of arguing, that courtroom, the hearing only stopped because we couldn't play it. If I had played that video, I'm pretty sure I would have just walked away free and clear. Because that video showed exactly what Neil worded that day. And I would have won. Because he states on that video, I'm not ordering you to do anything. Okay. So why the fuck did you stop me? He failed to specify in a cross-examination the capacity that he was acting as that day, constable or traffic officer. And the coward confirmed that he had stopped. So in other words, when I went to chase him, I said, you know, that motherfucker just ran over me, and I got in the car and chased after him, and I went back into the school traffic. He had taken that road to the right-hand side called School Road, and he had stopped halfway up it to remove the ticket that I put under his wiper blade. So he actually admitted that on the stand. So when exactly did he hand me the ticket? He even used colourful statements. Alright, now he said I chased him down the road. He said I sprawled myself over the bonnet. No, I didn't. At no time was I sprawling myself over his bonnet. The video would have showed that. Let the record show that that piece of shit there decided to stick that there, which he can have back. You're not walking away from me, buddy. You're not walking away from me. You're not walking away from me. Hey, what are you doing? Excuse me, don't walk away from me. You can have this back. Don't you try and run me over, mate. Don't you dare. You're running over my foot right now. Back off. You're on my toe. Look at this. He's running. Get off my fucking toe. You're moving forward. Back up. Get off my toe. You are. Get off of my toe. You evil man. You're being done for assault. But again, can't show it if the DVD player in the courtroom won't show it. Ironically, Mr. Hallworth admitted to me that he had watched part 3 of the 17th March. He had watched that clip because he had ordered me to remove it. So I said, well, you've obviously seen my channel. Why didn't you go on and look at the other video? If you'd done that, I wouldn't have this problem being able to show you the evidence. You know, the sprawled bit, that was a personal favourite. He said, yeah, I sprawled myself over the vehicle's bonnet. He failed to reply because I said to him, I will say you were running away. Did I frighten you, Neil? Didn't answer that. Were you afraid of me? You know, he didn't want to admit that. Well, I bet he fucking was. In reality, this was a private administrative hearing, not a court of justice. It was not a public court, although within a public building. Okay? After speaking with many various legal professionals, be it Mr. Skinner, the first duty solicitor, who said that I needed to go through IPCA first, and that's on tape, and that's up on YouTube, be it the duty solicitor I sat down and talked to and didn't record with, but he understood the wordings and what I meant. I even showed him the birth certificate and the birth printout to show that the persons were there too, and he got everything I meant because he was legally trained and understood the lingo. Alright, the Public Defence's Office, they say if you're going to make an IPCA complaint about a policeman, it must be done through only the Rotorua office. The Rotorua office handles police complaints about police. Doesn't that seem suspicious? I haven't done that yet, but it's not over. I've still got the IPCA to chase up, and I'm not going to let it fly. I was injured. Those fuckers would chase me till the cows come home if I ran over him while he stuck something under my wiper blade. If I'd rolled my car forward just an inch and caught his foot, I'd be getting done for assault. So there's no difference in rules between me or him as far as that's concerned. Just because he's wearing a pretty costume means fuck all. After speaking with various legal professionals, I have come away with the belief that the only justice available is what one makes for oneself. Now, there's a clip on my channel with Radio Live, and they're interviewing a criminal attorney that seeks private prosecutions against people in New Zealand. And he states, all right, and this guy's been in the profession for 30 plus years, he states, shaming them is the only way to get change.
The question is it time for a review of the justice system? There's been a lot of talk about this through the years. Marama Fox posing the question off the back of Te Napora. What do you say, Kim?
Well, I think there are two things here. One is that I would agree that we need a thorough review of justice policy. We haven't had any substantial review since, I think, 1981, when there was a committee, a ministerial committee looking at the penal policy issues. That's a long time ago. Mel Smith back in, I think, about 1995, when he was, just before he retired as Ombudsman, called for a review, perhaps a royal commission to look at justice policy. And that was put to one side by the Labour government, and they weren't buying that. I think the need is becoming desperate, because the problem with the neoliberal market society that we live in is that it's morally bereft. And when you have a justice system that is operating on procedures but not on any ethical or moral standard, then things can go very badly wrong, and they're going more badly wrong now than they were, say, 10 years ago.
Can you put that in layman's terms for us?
Well, yeah, look, back in 1981, people realised the prisons weren't working, that they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing, that there were far too many going to prison, and there was a major review by some pretty important people. There were judges and a retired police commissioner, and they came up with a very good report, which was totally ignored. There's been nothing broader than that, and that's the point I think I'm making, is that we need to look at the complete criminal justice system and saying, what is it actually that we're trying to do here? And nobody has grappled with that for a very long time. What we have done is done things like introducing the reducing reoffending strategy, which is an operational thing. But you can't run an operation and you can't run processes unless you have some underlying principles and values, and we're missing those at the moment. We know that, prisons are a cause of crime, so we need to limit their use in such a way that we reduce reoffending with the reduction of eligibility for legal aid. You're seeing people line up at the court who don't have any money, who choose not to get legal advice, and who plead guilty because it's the only thing they know how to do, and being, convicted and sentenced to some pretty shonky charges. And I was disappointed in the Prime Minister's response that, 99% of all cases are correctly judged. Let me say this. I think what will bring about that change is shame. When this country is held up as a country which discriminates against its indigenous peoples, when it becomes a subject of international criticism, then we might see some change. But the reason they're not talking about it is because they don't want the rest of the world to know what's happening.
Damning. Thank you so much, Kim Workman, member of Crime and Rethinking Crime and Punishment, and also from Victoria University. A long history, including head of the prisons for some time back in the 1990s.
Thank you, Kim.
Great to talk to you, Kim. And gosh, that's damning. That's as damning as you get, really, isn't it?
Look, he's very reasonable, man. Kim works at the coalface. He knows this game. and he's saying what Ellie said.
You can't you can see with Kim Workman, you can't just dismiss him as an academic. No. Yes, that's part of what he does, but he's been there, as you said, at the coalface. There's nobody really that knows better than him, you know.
He's one of the best.
No one expects me to get any sort of justice whatsoever because the system's rigged.
Well, I think you're finding out what the true society is today, and reform of justice system is quite crucial. The internet is certainly a good way of voicing it.
The whole thing was a private administrative hearing in a public courtroom.
That is an accepted practice now. It's in a small room, and the registrar or referee...
Yeah, but the guy's just acting as a banker on the top of there. He's not being a judge. I was told judge alone trial. It says it in writing, judge alone trial, but he's a justice of the peace.
Come down to, you see, and the way we can do it is through the Law Commission and through the Law Society. I can certainly voice this in that way.
Sure.
Change to the justice system and the prosecution, and you'll see that it's the media. I mean, fighting that, you could consider either going to the media.
Name and shame is the only way to do it. Do not try and go through their system, because it's their fucking system. It's not meant for you. Well, it's meant for the yous, the sheep, but it's not meant for me, myself, or I. It's not meant for a man or a woman to be in. It's only meant for persons to be governed. So, yeah. So now, this is what I do. I put things on YouTube. I name and shame them. People's opinions can vary. More power to them. Love you all. I don't give a fuck. In fact, if Neil showed up here tomorrow on my private property, of course he would have to ask permission, but if he showed up tomorrow, put his hand out, extended it and said, I'm sorry for running you over, that would be the end of it. Because I am more than happy to forgive any fellow man for his trespass upon me. He's just too much of a coward or a child to own up that what he did was wrong. He thinks that running onto my foot, even though he might think he didn't, the video evidence shows he did. Whether he did it purposely, whether or not the vehicle he was in's air conditioning kicked in and made the car rev up a bit more and jolt forward, I don't know. I'm not saying he intentionally did it or not, but what I am saying is that it did happen. He did run onto my foot. I was trapped under that tyre, and I could not have freely pulled my foot out until he reversed off it. The fact that he got halfway out of his car, saw where my foot was, got back in his car and reversed straight away is his admission of guilt. His actions proved that he was on my foot. So, I'm not going to let it go. I didn't go and seek medical evidence. People say, oh, you should have dropped a sledgehammer on your foot and gone to the doctor. I don't want to be dishonest. I don't want to commit fraud in any way. All I want to do is get someone, that man, Neil, you coward, to say sorry. Apologise for the wrong you committed. And I'll let it go. I don't give a fuck about money. I'm not chasing this for money. Give unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. Caesar can stick his money up his ass. But you do not get to hurt me, cause me injury, and get away with it. So I'll keep doing this for years. I won't let it go. And I'll just keep doing it. Right? I'm going to be ringing John Key's electoral office because I've been referred to do so by many legal professionals. You should contact your local MP. And then when I say who my local MP is, they laugh.
Unfortunate thing because they all stick up for themselves.
Of course they do. So guess who my local Minister of Parliament is?
The Minister of Parliament is John Key.
Exactly. And the only time I got anywhere near John Key to ask him a question, I was assaulted by a Secret Service officer.
Well, then you can actually contact Labour Party if you're looking at...
Oh, you reckon go get the other bully side, the other side of the fence into it.
Okay, cool.
I like you. You're an onto it girl.
Well, what does that say to you? What a fucking joke this entire system that you persons live in is. You know? Enough of my rant. I've had enough. I'm sure you guys have had enough. If you agree with me, comment. If you don't agree with me, comment. If you like. If you don't. If you're going to be a hater, by all means, you may win an award. You may get a video clip of your own with a reading of your comment for the Arsehole of the Day award winning. You know, so be it. I don't give a fuck. More opinions vary, more opinions are welcome. Much love to you all. Enjoy. See ya.